Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Mass Appeal. I'm Seth Stubman. I am in beautiful Deerfield here today. We're going to celebrate the beginning of Cider Days. It's happening this weekend all around the Pioneer Valley. We're at Clarkdale Fruit Farms in Deerfield, right?
Deerfield, correct.
Ben Clark, he's the owner. Ben, Cider Day is going to be fantastic, but for now, we're in front of an apple tree. Tell us a little bit about it.
You see, some of these apples get a nice red blush to them. So this is a Golden Delicious, and these are just about ready to pick. We're just getting ready to start. So we haven't picked this tree yet. You can see it's got a good crop. In terms of apples, there is a correct way to pick. You want to preserve the future apples for the tree, and the way that apples grow, there's actually a spur that comes off the branch, and that's actually the same flowering point at each year. So you get the same bud on the apple tree each year. So if that's broken, then you won't get a bud there, and there won't be fruit there next year, or potential fruit. So when you're picking, you want to make sure that you maintain what's called the spur. So you keep the stem clean. It's called a clean pick, which I'll illustrate. But it's a way of keeping the tree healthy and then keeping a healthy apple, because the other problem is if you pull the stem out and you have a stemless apple, it's not going to keep as long. If you're just eating it fresh, it's not a big problem and it won't affect the tree, but it's going to be, basically, if you think of it, it's an opening in the apple. So anything, potentially could get in, and then that's going to be shorten the life. Big
farms like this, there's still really no great machine that can pick an apple. So this is what you've been picking with for years and years.
So we still use picking buckets. So this is called a picking bucket. Any orchard in the country or in the world even, you'd find a similar version, whether it's canvas or some other material. But these we've been using on the farm for as long as we've been in business, which is 99 years. So we're, and a lot of these are, this is probably 20 to 30 years old. So we just replace the straps and replace whatever leather burns out. So in terms of apple storage, we store apples at about 34 degrees Fahrenheit in a large cold storage chamber, and we can store apples up to 4 or 5 months depending on the variety. At home, you always want to store apples cold. So if you don't have room in the fridge, you want to keep them out of the sun, somewhere. I mean, some people do root cellars, breezeway, somewhere cool to preserve the freshness of the apple, because even after being picked, apples will continue to ripen slowly. So if they're sitting out, especially in the sun, they will get overripe and soft. So apples, I tell everybody, apples are best kept in the fridge, not in a fruit bowl.
Now, apple trees in particular, they have this neat, historic, old look to them. What do you need to do to maintain an apple tree?
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, basically to maintain a tree, so you want to keep the tree healthy. So you generally would stake it somehow with a wooden stake, and then also you want to protect from mice damage, because mice, when trees are young, mice are one of the biggest problems, because they can girdle a tree, which means they chew the bark all the way around, and the tree will die from exposure. Other main problem we have is deer. Deer love to browse on trees, especially in a harsh New England winter, which we may be having this year again.
Yeah.
Home tree, you can hang bars of soap, which actually is a good deterrent. Just the scent of soap, and also if the deer happens to eat it, then they're going to be turned off. So, I mean, those are the things in terms of establishing, and then just in terms of keeping a tree healthy when it's older, you want to make sure you're getting enough rainfall, or if not, then you have to irrigate, and then you want to fertilize the tree, and if you have to treat for fungicide.
Ben, thank you so much for bringing us out to the orchard.
Thank you,
but
Seth.
That is just the beginning of the show. Here's what's going to happen on the show today. We're going to pick some apples. Then we're going to bring them all back to home base. We're going to have a little bit of an apple tasting. We're going to talk to you all about Cider Days. We're going to take some of these apples. We're going to make some apple cider. And we might, maybe just maybe, make some hard cider. So stick around. You're watching Mass Appeal. It's absolutely beautiful. This is the time of year. If you haven't picked your apple yet, you really need to. It's so beautiful out, and you want to get your apples ready, because Cider Days is coming this weekend. Set your calendar for that. We have Lynn here. She's on the Franklin County Cider Days committee. You're going to tell us all about a weekend of wall-to-wall fun. Let's talk Cider Days.
Okay. Cider Days is an event that started 20 years ago, believe it or not, and it started as a little thing with a group of friends just celebrating the harvest, and has grown into a pretty large event with about 15 venues, three days of activities. It starts Friday night, October 31st, with a cool kickoff event at the Blue Heron restaurant in Sunderland. That's going to be a real cider and food pairing event. And then it moves on over the weekend to several venues, including Shelburne Falls, where we do workshops.
And it's all over Franklin County.
It's all over Franklin County.
Which is the really neat part.
There are orchards all over Franklin County that are taking part, as far out as Ashfield and Hawley. And then also New Salem. They have a big apple festival going on the weekend at New Salem Orchards and Preserves. So that's a kid-friendly event. And then one of the big things about Cider Days, and one of the things that a lot of people come for, is that it's also a celebration of hard cider.
And hard cider is this new phenomenon, maybe in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it's always been a worldwide phenomenon, but here it really has been eclipsed by craft beer, but now craft cider is becoming a really big thing. And with Cider Days, we've got an opportunity to taste a lot of that. We've got 2 salons that happen on Saturday in Shelburne Falls and at the Shelburne Buckland Community Center. And what they are is basically we have a huge tent. We have 38 producers we're bringing in 91 individual brands of cider.
And the best part about this, it's not just from around New England.
Oh.
It's not just from around the United States. There's cider from around the world.
Yeah, there's from England, from France, from Spain, from New Zealand. It is really incredible. It's a chance to really taste the whole flavor of everything.
So people can get more information on the website. And if people look on the website, everything is on there. There's even food events too. Tell us a little bit about those.
There are food events. Amy Traverso, who's an editor at Yankee Magazine, is doing a workshop on Sunday here at Clarkdale Fruit Farms, and she's doing one on how to choose the right apple for your recipes. So she's the author of the Apple Lover's Cookbook, so she knows a lot lot about that, and it's a great thing. It's all things Apple this weekend. And there's also some food demos happening in Magpie Wood-Fired Pizzeria down in downtown Greenfield. Those are chef events. We've got chefs coming in from Connecticut and from south of Boston, Metro West area, who are going to do cooking with cider recipes.
And the majority of these things, they're free to the public. People can stop in.
Yes.
And you don't have to be an aficionado. There's so many opportunities to learn. I know I come every year, and I always learn a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah, no, it's great. All the orchard events are free, and so are all these chef events and things. The only ticketed events are the salons, dinner, things like that. But everything else, including the workshops on how to make hard cider, all of that stuff is free. It's a really phenomenal event.
And what's even cooler is you can get the opportunity to go outside. I don't know if you've been out recently, but I think today might be peak foliage.
It's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous, yeah. We still have the leaves on the trees, which is great.
The leaves still on the trees after all the winds over the weekend.
Yeah.
But if people get out and about and look around, they can really, really enjoy the foliage while it lasts. Because, and lastly, if people are interested in Cider Days, tell us the website and how we can get more information.
Ciderdays.org. Go there. There's a downloadable schedule. There's all the information you need on to have a really great time this weekend.
So just head on up. Make sure you bring the schedule because you walk around like this and you go to all the different places. Oh, it's so much fun.
It's great fun.
Lynn, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Seth.
And we're going to be here live all show long. What we're going to be doing is everything. We're going to show you how to make a little bit of apple cider later. We're going to do an apple tasting, but for now, I'm going to toss it back in. Welcome back to Mass Appeal. Now with apples, you can make so many different things, but one of the things that you can make is delicious. It's apple cider. So we're here with Suki Kidwell from OESCO. Now take us on the process. How are we going to turn apples into cider today?
Okay. Well, what we have to do is grind them first, and this is the grinding machine that we actually manufacture in Franklin County up in Conway at OESCO. So we are going to be throwing the apples into the grinder. You'll notice that I'm picking from 5 different boxes here, and the reason I'm doing that is because they're all different varieties. We've got Empire, John Gold, McIntosh, Cortland, and the reason you have the different varieties is the best cider is you want it to be more complex. You want to have some sweet, some tart, some different flavors in there. This gives you good complexity for sweet cider, and then also we're going to be filling some carboys here, and we're going to make some hard cider, which is becoming really, really popular. I think we're going to fit about 6 bushels of apples into that, ground apples. And the yield, a bushel, by the way, this is a bushel box right here. Okay, so one of these ground up is going to about fit in that 5-gallon bucket. And I think we're going to fit about 6 bushels in here. The amount of cider we're going to get out of 1 bushel of apples ground up is about 3 gallons.
We turned on the grinding machine and we started loading up apples one by one into the grinder.
There's a drum in there that's turning, and there are carbide teeth on that drum, and they're just going to cut through the apples. They're going to end up in this bucket. You're going to see it coming out. Once it's ground, we're going to take it over to the press over here, and we're going to start filling it up, and that's where we press it.
It was pretty cool. The grinder spits and sputters, and you really can smell the apples immediately. Once we ground up the apples, we began to load them bucket by bucket into the apple press.
Take this, and we're going to pour it into the press. It's a bladder press, and it runs on household water pressure. So we've got a rubber bladder vertically in the middle of this press that we're going to fill up with water. And here's our water coming in just from our garden hose. It's going to travel into the bladder. After I fill the press with pumice, we're going to let that bladder expand, and it's going to push the pumice against the inside of the basket. The cider's going to collect in the tray, and we're going to collect it over here and fill up some jugs and some carboys.
This apple press is a thing of beauty for both people to watch and for bees. They certainly love how sweet this smells. We filled the press with apple pulp, and we filled it up to the brim. Then we closed the latch, we turned on the water, and what came next? Well, apple cider, and more apple cider. Suki, it's amazing. In about a half an hour, we took this and we turned it into this. Happy Cider Days.
Same to you, Seth.
Cheers, everybody. To Mass Appeal, we're finishing up one great show. We're here live at Deerfield. We're with Ben Clark. He's the owner of Clarkdale Fruit Farm. Now we're doing a little apple tasting. How many apples roughly do you think there are in Western Massachusetts?
Western Mass, there's probably over 100 varieties grown. We grow over 50 here, so there are quite a few around.
So we have 5. Let's start with more the tasting, the eating apples. We have a Macintosh over here.
So if you want to try a Macintosh, here's a Macintosh. This is a pretty common apple most people are familiar with. Great eating apple, great all-purpose cider, everything. You know, this is a classic New England favorite. So that's one that this is the perfect time to come out, pick Macintosh, whatever.
It seems like it's in the middle, too, of sweet and tart.
Exactly. So it's a nice blend. You know, people like it. It's not too hard, you know, too sweet, too tart. Nice balance. If you want a little sweeter, the Empire, which is actually, this is half Macintosh and half Red Delicious.
Really?
So it's like a lot of apples is their crosses. You like 2 apples, you put them together.
Say, earlier in the show, we alluded to that. That's sort of like a relatively complex process where you can merge apple trees.
Right. So anyways, this is a great Empire is another classic New England apple, which is sweeter and a little firmer version. There's one to try.
All right.
Sweeter and more firm, I would say. Great eating apple.
I like a firm apple.
Yeah, I mean these are great because they really hold up well.
Now, speaking of what's popular in the apple world right now, Honeycrisp is the it apple.
Honeycrisp is it. So yeah, here's the Honeycrisp. Is a great sweet eating apple. I mean, most people know them. They're the hot thing.
So sweet. They're like Pink Ladies were hot last year. Honeycrisp is hot.
Honeycrisp is this year. Jonna Gold, which I think is an even improved version, is sweet tart, great for eating and baking. And then the last apple here is Northern Spy, which is an heirloom variety. One that we grow, you can't get everywhere, but more of a tart apple. So if you want to give that a shot.
So this is on the, this is, if you, Honeycrisp, one of the sweetest.
Yeah.
Northern Spy, one of the tartest.
Yes, and great for baking with.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. That is pretty tart.
So
now Cider Days. You excited for it?
Very excited. We're looking forward to everybody coming out. We can try. We're doing a sampling just like this. People can come and try all the apples that we have. Over 20 varieties right now.
And there's going to be some cooking demonstrations. You're going to be live making, like we made earlier.
Making cider.
In the show.
Yes. Suki will be here making cider.
And then there's over a dozen locations in Western Massachusetts, in Franklin County for this. It's going to be a really great event.
Yes.
As always, this is the 20th year.
20th year, big celebration.
People come out, they see the fall foliage, all of that good stuff.
Exactly.
You want to eat some more apples?
Sure, let's do it.
I see. So tomorrow on Mass Appeal, we've got so much pumpkin-related stuff, Halloween-related stuff. It's going to be an amazing week here on the show. And then don't forget, ciderdays.org. That's the website.
That's correct.
That's where you go to get all the cider-related information. In the meantime,